Hold on, we're halfway through 2020? When the hell did that happen? I suppose time flies when you're having fun, and what's more fun than having everything falling apart before your very eyes? And if that doesn't sound fun to you, what better way to take your mind off the inevitable collapse of Western civilization than by watching some wicked new horror flicks? Is that too dark for an intro? Nah. So sit back, relax, and let the fresh films wash over you like the tide on an overcast day. Actually, don't do that. Let your guard down and you might end up like some of the characters in these movies. Cool. Hello horror heads and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're going to be taking on the following topic, the top 5 scary horror movies you need to watch this year. Before we get started, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more petrifying plot points. Perfect. Let's do it. Coming in at number 5, we've got The Rental. Dave Franco is directing a movie. Regardless of whether you love or hate the Francos, this has to pique your interest at least a little bit. And if you take a minute to watch the trailer, you'll find that it actually looks pretty interesting. A pair of couples head out to an oceanside town for some rest and relaxation. Soon after arriving, they begin to realize that the owner of the property they rented may or may not be spying on them. Cameras in the shower heads, mics in the lampshades, all the good stuff. If that wasn't enough, it appears that all the characters have some deep, dark secrets that are forced into the open by this unexpected development. It seems to be shaping up into a taut and tense thriller. I think the best reason to watch this one when it releases is to soothe that FOMO you're all likely feeling. If you're like me, you tend to use summer months to plan some fun little getaways, camping cottages, weekend trips to friends' places and far-off cities. But the state of the world as we know it makes that a little more difficult to pull off, right? Well, after seeing The Rental, you might feel a little safer staying at home for a little while. The last thing anyone needs is to be peeped upon by the owner of a rental property while taking a shower. Yeesh. And don't get me started on well-hidden secrets between friends. Those tend to cause more murder than infidelity, or maybe at a similar rate as they're often related. Oh, and Alison Brie is in it, which is always a plus, right? The Rental is available on video on demand starting July 24th, so by the time this video drops, you'll be able to check it out in all its glory. If you do end up seeing it before you see this video, give me a little review in the comments. Coming in at number 4, we've got Blackwater Abyss. That title is enough to sell me on this movie. There's rarely a 3-word phrase as cool and evocative as Blackwater Abyss. Plus, if you say it in an Australian accent, it gets even cooler, which coincidentally is just how any of the characters in this movie would say it. This little Aussie flick looks like a cross between The Descent and Crawl, 2 wild movies that are fun for totally different reasons. Smashing all that together in a wild cave diving expedition should be a blast. A group of friends heads out to a remote cave system deep in the Australian wilderness. What should be a fascinating and exciting exploration becomes a life and death struggle as everything you would want to avoid while spelunking starts happening. Flood waters rise up, forcing the friends to swim for their lives. But a flood on its own wouldn't be enough. No, there's also an aggressive and territorial crocodile looking to chomp down at any bit of human flesh it can find. Now, the trailer only shows one crocodile and implies that a single predator might be the lone. However, reading official synopses makes it apparent that there are a lot more of these toothy creatures around. We've got a lot of classic fears on the table for Blackwater Abyss. Packs of deadly Australian creatures, claustrophobic caves, rising waters, and more than likely, a couple of dick-ass friends who you'd rather didn't come on the trip with you. This is another flick that drops relatively soon. It's making its way to VOD on August 7th. Again, another reason to feel glad you're not out there adventuring at the current moment. You could end up in a Blackwater Abyss. Coming in at number 3, we've got Relic. Now, if you really want to dive down deep into the fears of being trapped at home with your family, Relic might do the trick. It's a tale of terror as much as it is one of familial grief, one that you inherit from your ancestors. In Relic, Kay's mother Edna goes missing, so she takes her daughter Sam up to their family home to find her. Once they arrive, it becomes very apparent that something is wrong. A freaky mold covers most of the walls, and there are cryptic and unsettling notes all over the place. After Kay calls the police, Edna reappears. She refuses to give any information about where she's been or what's going on. It appears that Edna is suffering from dementia. It doesn't seem like things are getting any better, so Kay considers putting her mother in a home. However, as the family reconnects in this remote house, it becomes clear that there is something much more sinister going on. Relic presents a story that's as heart-wrenching as it is horrifying, switching back and forth between the story of a family dealing with long-running mental health issues and a demonic presence that haunts their ancestral home. Speaking of the home, as the movie progresses, it becomes larger and scarier. The inside of it's much bigger than the impression of the outside facade gives off, off with an ever-shifting labyrinth of terrors trapping all who enter. It's haunted, but not necessarily by ghosts. I'm not so sure that just leaving will solve anything either. Relic is already available on VOD, so go give it a watch and be glad that you live in a cramped apartment instead of a house like this. Coming in at number 2, we've got Disappearance at Clifton Hill. Part neo-noir, part thriller, part surreal horror, Disappearance at Clifton Hill is a stylized descent into Niagara Falls madness. That is to say, it's cool and good. Oh, and David Cronenberg plays a scuba diving conspiracy podcaster. And Bad Bad Not Good scored it. Some real nice Canadian influence all through it. Okay, enough fanboying, let's talk about the movie itself. 20 years before the plot begins, our protagonist Abby witnessed a kidnapping. While on a lovely little family trip, she wandered off and saw a one-eyed boy get snatched up and stuffed into a trunk. After dealing with the trauma for decades, she returns to her hometown of Niagara Falls to do something about it. What she assumes should be a quick admission turns into a winding, whirling mystery where the truth is always partially hidden. In her investigation, she comes across old VHS tapes featuring cheesy magicians, tigers, suicides, and of course all of the campy creepiness that comes with the tourist-riddled Niagara Falls strip. Neon lights, UFO diners, and wacky fun houses all take their turn in the spotlight as Abby lies her way through all sorts of conversations in search of some sort of truth. Do we ever find it? Well, if you're a fan of modern neo-noirs like Under the Silver Lake, you should know what kind of experience you're in for here. And finally at number 1, we've got The Color Out of Space. Finally, right? Folks have been asking me to talk about this one for ages, and I figure with its recent Netflix tenure and all, now is the perfect time. Lovecraft fans rejoice, this is a very Lovecraftian horror movie. It captures everything cosmic horror fans love so much about the legendary works of fear and the far reaches of reality. Nicolas Cage plays Nathan Gardner, who recently moved his family to a tomato alpaca farm in an attempt to get away from it all, which ends up inadvertently bringing his kin into something much worse than what they were trying to move away from. A mysterious pink meteor touches down in their yard, and from there things get real weird. The water goes bad, and pink vegetation begins to sprout all around the property. Soon the alpacas become bizarrely agitated, and the family dog runs away, and I'm sure you know where this is going. The family is next in line to succumb to the strangeness that the meteor brought, and there's nothing they can really do to stop it. It takes a while to really get going, but the rose-tinted insanity reaches a wicked fever pitch, delivering cosmic craziness wholesale. Even if the characters are a little weak, the descent into madness is fascinating, and the visuals are top-notch. Lots of mutated creatures and body horror for all interested. So yeah, if you want to hop on the Lovecraft train and ride it out, The Color Out of Space is a great place to do it. Maybe check out Shudder's new The Beach House and make it a cosmic double feature. Alright. Got enough movies to watch now? Will all of these tide you over for the next little while, or did I pick a bunch that you've already seen? Hopefully you haven't seen all of these yet, considering that a few haven't been released yet. And if you have seen them ahead of time, maybe drop a link so I can catch up too. So what'd you think of the list? Are you excited to watch any of these? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more manipulative ones from top 5 scary criminals still on the loose. Zachzilla says, "You're telling me a guy escaped the same prison twice using the same method? He thinks the guards were in on it." Probably right. A lot of the folks on guard at the time were severely disciplined, even jailed for letting it happen. Makes you think. Sleep Tight says, "It's creepy to think that people like this could be our neighbors. Thankfully, most criminals aren't too interested in the average layperson. Hell, they might even be friendly community members." Bomberman says, "I'd definitely be getting paid well for taking out these criminals. Unfortunately, none of them are hanging out in bird's eye view mazes where you can drop your bombs on them." O-Time Pilot says, "Scariest fugitive of all, Jesus Christ. Not even death stopped him from escape." And the wild thing is, he was considered a criminal back in his time, for illegitimate reasons too. Corrupt folks love to criminalize what they don't like, eh? And Kara Joy Reed says, "Glenn Stewart Godwin looks like he could be Jared Bronstein's dad or brother." Uh-oh, I'll have to ask Jared about that next time I see him. Hopefully he doesn't have the same murderous tendencies. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I use a voodoo doll that looks strangely like me as a pincushion, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more lurid looks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.